Hello, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of a brand new little sub series I would like to call Conservation Conversation, presented by yours truly, Safari Mack, your guide and host, forever committed to helping you make connections to the wild. Before we begin today's first episode, I'd like to take a moment and explain to you what is conservation conversation. From the restoring of reefs, either by growing corals or placing oyster shells, to reintroducing species that were once exterminated from an area back into their original habitat, even the replanting of forests in areas where deforestation took place. As a kid growing up, always found myself fascinated in learning about all the different conservation projects that were taking place in my childhood, as well as studying all the animals that I've come to know and love and that give me my passion. So today, with this little series, I thought I would take the time and share with you some stories and projects that are currently taking place, and see how maybe even we, the everyday citizen, can help contribute to keep these conservation success stories a thing for the future, as well as for the next 100 years, especially for our grandchildren. So, with that said, if you are just joining me from part 2 of the Rhino in our first expedition in Africa, let us begin our first topic, the northern white rhino. Now, as previously mentioned in the episode that was premiered an hour ago, the white rhino comes in two kinds: the southern white rhino, which is more populous, and the critically endangered northern white rhino. The story is that once upon a time there used to be thousands living up in the northern central area of Africa, just a bit past Tanzania and Kenya, as well, so like central Uganda and all these other little pieces and places in which you can see right here on this map. However, due to poaching as well as loss of habitat, unfortunately, their numbers originally, as recently as a few years ago, their numbers were around 3 left. But today, unfortunately, there are only 2 of these magnificent creatures left, which are a mother and daughter named Nanjin and Fatu. Now, originally, there was a male named Sudan who, as recently as a few years ago, died at the age of 45. With his death, the entire northern white rhino subspecies is considered to be functionally extinct. So, some questions people might ask is, why can't we just clone these animals? That really doesn't solve the problem. You see, the thing is, a clone is basically a, a being that has the same genetic makeup. So, if you were to, let's say you had a male that was cloned to breed with a female that maybe was similar, it just really damages the gene pool population. It's what we call gene pool pollution, which comes from inbreeding. And as I've mentioned in previous episodes of Safari Mack, when inbreeding takes place, not only does their health decline very badly, but it also can damage and really severely tarnish any chance of them being able to successfully adapt to changing conditions like change in weather or habitat. With that loss, it makes them more susceptible to death a little quicker than we would like to anticipate. And even with Najin and Fatu being guarded nearly 24/7 by African park rangers, unfortunately, that's not enough to help this species. For at first it seems like all is completely lost for the northern white rhino. Or is there? It turns out, thanks to possibly and thanks to technology, there may be a chance that the northern white rhino might endure for the next 100 years. How so? Allow me to explain. Now, in different places all over the world, one particular in the United States near San Diego Zoo, San Diego has what you would call a frozen zoo. Now, no, it's not a zoo that houses Arctic or cold weather animals. Instead, it is a facility, kind of like a Cairo bank, except instead of keeping money, what they're keeping inside these special containers, inside these specialized coolants, are each has genetic material from different kinds of animals, in which there are now almost over 800 different species inside. And these include sex cells, even a whole genome of certain animals. Now, in this case, for the northern white rhino, at San Diego's Frozen Zoo, they have genetic material that has been stored away. How is this possible? Recently, both Najin and Fatu had their egg cells extracted, and thanks to Sudan's frozen sex cells, as well as from other northern male white rhinos that were collected long before their deaths, scientists have begun, not at San Diego, but in different places all over the world, they have begun to create embryos of the northern white rhino. So by combining these together, they're beginning the forming of a brand new baby rhino. So the plan is that they hope to eventually implant these embryos into surrogate southern white rhinos, which will then carry the baby and then give birth to a fully genetically purebred northern white rhino, so that the species may be brought back from the brink of extinction. As of right now, there are 14 embryos in frozen, waiting for the right moment. Will this project work? And will the northern white rhino be back for the next 100 years? Personally, I hope so. Now, there is a bit of skepticism about this project, like, are we playing with God and other stuff? Because first of all, we are part of the cause of their demise, of their near extinction. But don't we humans have somewhat of a responsibility to do our part to help keep animals safe? I mean, in a way, we owe it to them. I mean, by helping these animals have a better chance at survival, we can not only just save the northern white rhino, but many other different rare and critically endangered species all over the world. But now I want to hear from all of you. Be sure to leave a comment down below. What do you think of this project? And do you think that there's hope for the northern white rhino? Be sure to let me know. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to my very first episode. Now, I don't know exactly what the next episode would be, so stay tuned with Safari Mack episodes for any special announcements on the next conservation conversation. Until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there in the wild.